In the desert world of Mon Kulurulu, the Varim plasma refinery is being assaulted by a vanguard force of the ancient robot legions, who do not take kindly to their world being disturbed by a relatively young upstart of an empire. But to the Varim, the source of energy that power their advanced weaponry is far too precious to abandon. And so it inevitably leads to bitter conflict. Like maybe 90% cacao. That's too bitter for me. Welcome to the kingdom. My name isn't Kevin, but this is a battle report for a game of OnePageRules, Grimdark Future version 3.4, played using 1500 point lists adhering to force organization. I play the DAO Union, while my opponent plays the Robot Legions. Here's my list. The DAO army will have two identical heroes in the form of grunt leaders, posing as support engineers, with call signs Crow and Magpie. They are both caster 2, carrying a pulse pistol and a spotting laser each. We then have two grunt squads. Infantry Squad Raven is a combined unit of 10 models, equipped with 8 short-ranged pulse shotguns, and 2 smart missiles that are long-range and indirect. Infantry Squad Kestrel is also a 10 model unit, but they are all equipped with pulse carbines and carry 2 spotting lasers. Next, there is a combined unit of spotters. They are armed with pulse carbines and carry 3 spotting lasers, as well as a beacon to allow ambush units to deploy nearby. They also have an inhibitor drone. Finally, there is a unit of 3 battlesuits. They are tough 3 and their jet boosters grant them ambush and flying. They are armed with a deadly fusion rifle and a plasma rifle each. One of them is upgraded with an extra plasma rifle and a spotting laser. For my opponent's list, the main force will be led by a Robot Lord with a retinue of 10 warriors. The Robot Lord carries an advanced Gauss rifle and is upgraded with regen protocol, granting the whole unit regeneration. The warriors are armed with Reaper rifles, boasting a healthy AP2. It is the only unit that is slow in this list. Next, we have a unit of Tri-Scorpions. These are tough 3 models and are deadly in melee, with high quality and defense. They ignore difficult terrain due to them being Striders. Then there is a unit of Bot Swarms. Like the Tri-Scorpions, they are tough 3 and Strider, but have low quality and defense and are suited to grab objectives, as they can't be shaken. In reserve, we have another Robot Lord joined to a combined unit of 10 Guardians. Equipped with jetpacks, they have ambush, flying and swift, so they can charge an enemy unit upon arrival. And with a phase glaive and hyper swords, they should have no problem deleting their targets. Furthermore, the Guardians have combat shields for added defense, and with the Robot Lord's Gloom protocol, the unit should be pretty durable. Finally, we have a Tri-Scorpion Pistolier armed with a disintegration pistol that can fire multiple shots. It is a hunter and therefore gains +2 AP on the turn it arrives. For this game, the terrain pieces were prepared and painted by my opponent, who has clearly done a marvellous job. We treat the building ruins near the longboard edges and the shipping containers as impassable terrain that block line of sight. Some of the smaller ruins and objects provide cover, but units can shoot through them. Models moving through them would be treated as if they were moving through difficult terrain. There are some patches of difficult terrain, but these do not provide cover. Finally, there are 3 plasma generators placed at the center. These block line of sight and are impassable, but more interestingly, we gave them special rules for this game. As they are containing volatile superheated matter, it's not very safe to have firefights in their vicinity. Therefore, when a unit shoots an enemy within 3 inches of a generator and there are any misses, the target unit must take a dangerous terrain test. For each generator, when this has happened twice, the generator is removed as it is treated as having exploded. Note that a unit cannot deliberately target the generator to cause an explosion. With a roll of 3 on a d3, 5 objective markers are placed on the field. The Robot Legion wins the roll-off for board edge selection and initiative, so they deploy first. For the DAO Union, the reserved units are the Spotters, who are to be deployed as scouts, and the Battlesuits, who are to be deployed round 2 onwards as an ambush unit. For the Robot Legions, the unit of Guardians accompanied by a Robot Lord and the Tri-Scorpion Pistolier are the ambush units placed in reserve. The robot swarms scurry forward over Objective 5 and behind the cover of one of the plasma generators. Support Engineer Crow remains static in position to keep out of the enemy threat range. The unit of Tri-Scorpions mirror the swarms on the opposite side, capturing Objective 2. Support Engineer Magpie also stays where he is. The robot warriors led by their lord advances cautiously forward in the center. Having drained the robot's activations, the DAO infantry move into action. The spotters move out of cover, getting around the plasma generator to take shots at the swarms. One of the spotting lasers successfully marks a target to grant the spotters +1 modifier to hit. Plasma bolts fired from their carbines rain down on the swarms, hitting 13 times and causing 8 wounds after the defense rolls and self-repair. The generator leaks plasma blasts, but the remaining swarm is unaffected. However, the swarm fails its morale test, and with a failed robot test, it takes its last wound, and the unit is wiped out. Squad Raven moves forward to reinforce the spotters on Objective 1. With their long-range smart missiles, they target the robot warriors in the center. Despite the -1 modifier for shooting indirect weapons after moving, the smart missiles hit 3 times and take out a single warrior. Squad Kestrel moves forward toward the center and Objective 3. 7 models manage to get in range to shoot at the Tri-Scorpions. Both spotting lasers successfully mark the target, granting a whopping +2 to hit rolls, effectively making their carbines reliable weapons that hit on 2+. They proceed to fire at the Tri-Scorpions and 8 of the 14 shots hit. You heard correctly, I rolled 6 ones. It's a dice game. The Tri-Scorpions endure the attack with good armor and self-repair. They take just 2 wounds. At the end of the round, the DAO army claims Objective 1, while the Robot Legion captures Objective 2. At the start of the round, both sides deploy reinforcements. The Tri-Scorpion Pistolier phases in on Objective 5 and before the spotters. The DAO battlesuits descend from the sky next to Squad Kestrel, reinforcing the right flank. The second Robot Lord and its guardians teleport onto the left side, ready to pounce at Squad Raven. The Tri-Scorpion Pistolier starts the engagement, firing its pistols at the spotters. It shoots down 4 of them, and one stray fire causes a second burst of plasma that engulfs the spotters. After an explosion that removes the generator, a further 4 models are taken out as casualties. You heard correctly, I rolled 4 ones out of 6 dice rolls. It's a dice game. And yet, miraculously, the surviving spotters passed their morale test, despite their low quality. Squad Raven holds position to make a stand against the onslaught ahead that is the Robot Lord and its guardians. They unleash a barrage of pulse shotgun fire and smart missiles at the newly arrived threat and manage to take out 4 of the heavily armoured robots. The robot warriors continue their march forward and shoot at the battlesuits. The focused beams from their Reaper rifles, supported by the Robot Lord's own shooting, render one battlesuit blazing aflame and cause severe damage to the second battlesuit, leaving it with just 1 wound remaining. Support Engineer Crow sprints around the building that sheltered him to aid Squad Raven against the deadly robot guardians. His spotting laser successfully marks the guardians, and he then proceeds to call upon Support Airstrike, casting Devastating Strike, using all 4 spell tokens. Despite the 2+ armor save and the further 2+ save from Gloom Protocol, another guardian falls to the attack. The Robot Lord finally orders charge against Squad Raven. The Lord itself cleaves 2 of the DAO infantry, while its remaining retinue cut down 5 more. In the fight back, one of the grunts land a punch against the guardians, but it fails to do any damage apart from maybe on his own fist. The remainder of Squad Raven fail their morale test and are routed. Meanwhile, Squad Kestrel advances forward, right along the walls of the ruin, but far enough from the plasma generator ahead to avoid getting caught in its volatile blast. They continue the attack on the Tri-Scorpions on the right. One of their spotting lasers mark the target. They deliver a salvo of plasma rounds that deals 13 hits, and this time the hardened armor of the Tri-Scorpions fail them, allowing just enough wounds to get through to remove the unit. The pair of spotters proceed forward to claim Objective 5, which the Tri-Scorpion Pistolier cannot capture this turn. One of the spotting lasers successfully marks it, but the spotters choose to take shots at the robot warriors. They manage to pick off a single warrior. The battlesuits make their advance over Objective 4, although they cannot capture it. They target the robot warriors ahead with both their fusion rifles and their plasma rifles. Albeit the low number of shots, the high firepower ensures the incapacitation of 3 robots. Finally, Engineer Magpie joins in on the attack and casts Devastating Strike with all 4 spell tokens. The spell goes off successfully and the airstrike hits hard against the warriors. 4 more robots are destroyed, and a failed morale test followed by a disastrous robot save deals further 3 wounds, leaving just the Robot Lord with 1 wound remaining. The engineer then uses his remaining move to hide behind Squad Kestrel. At the end of the round, the DAO Union gains control of Objective 5, putting them ahead in objective control. The Robot Lord in the center moves over to the center objective, directly in proximity of a plasma generator. It raises its advanced Gauss rifle and picks off the damaged battlesuit. The last battlesuit fails its morale test and becomes shaken. Squad Kestrel moves forward to contest the center objective. They also gain sight of the Tri-Scorpion Pistolier. Both of their spotting lasers go off, and the Tri-Scorpion Pistolier is now marked 3 times. Expending 2 of the marker tokens, Squad Kestrel delivers yet another deadly salvo from their pulse carbines. 15 hits deal 6 wounds as the hail of glittering plasma bolts brutally reduces the Tri-Scorpion into decapitated chunks of metal. The second Robot Lord and the Guardians surround Engineer Crow, and like a Damascus blade cutting through tofu, the Robot Lord's phase glaive fells the engineer. The battlesuit pilot shakes his fear and loneliness and regains his will to fight on. Engineer Magpie runs over to the battlesuit to provide moral support. After all, he's a support engineer. With only 2 caster points, he is given a choice to cast Devastating Strike again that would go off on 4+, or Killing Blow on 3+, that would only hit once but with a higher AP. He decides to go with Killing Blow, which, although it was the right call because the casting roll yielded a 3, unfortunately causes no damage as the Robot Lord makes its regeneration save. Having secured Objective 5, the spotters move off the objective and position themselves to the left, equidistantly to Objectives 1 and 5, a move to bait the Robot Lord's unit and deny them any additional objective control in the next round. They have proudly earned the title of Master Baiters. At the end of the round, the DAO Union gains control of Objective 4, but loses control over Objective 1 to the robots. With Objective 3 contested in the centre, both sides have even number of objectives. The Robot Lord in the centre remains in position and tries to shoot at the last battlesuit, but Engineer Magpie bravely jumps in the way. The Gauss projectile penetrates the light armour of the Engineer and grievously wounds him. Reduced to a single wound, the Engineer becomes shaken after failing his morale test. Squad Kestrel moves towards the left, whilst leaving their footprints on Objective 3. They gain sight of the Guardians. With yet another spotting laser going off, the DAO infantry blasts away at the target with greater accuracy. 14 hits take down 3 more Guardians. Reduced to less than half its original squad size, the Robot Lord makes a morale test and fails on a 1. To add to injury, they take further 3 wounds due to failed robot saves, and the Robot Lord stands alone with 2 wounds remaining. With its army decimated, the lone Robot Lord decides to make an escape and runs to the left board edge. The 2 spotters barely slow down its escape as they pay the ultimate price for standing in the Lord's way. The battlesuit strafes over to Objective 2, and with both plasma and fusion fire, takes down the other Robot Lord. At the end of the game, both Objectives 2 and 3 fall in the hands of the DAO army, who win 4-1. That was such a brutal battle. Although I initially had some poor dice rolls, I feel that I was helped out by my opponent having some unlucky dice rolls, particularly given that they failed all 3 morale tests, even when 2 of them were at 3+ quality. Furthermore, the wounds inflicted by the robot rule were so devastating. On the other hand, the spotting lasers were going wild this game. I've not yet played a game where so many marker tokens were used, because I generally roll poorly on the spotting lasers. Dice luck aside, I'm happy with some of the decisions I made during the game. My opponent had fewer activations, particularly on round 1, so using the support engineers to drain them down forced my opponent's hand and allowed me to position my strong units freely. I don't think it made much difference in this particular game, but I think I was also right to move the Squad Raven forward and not keeping them static just because they have indirect weapons. In fact, I don't think smart missiles are particularly cost effective, and it's probably better to equip all models with pulse carbines instead for future games. Anyway, another fun game played.